Following list of projects are example from our artworks ideation period. Record a service to collect your rating from across the web and give better recommendation to you. Ninjapa, a way that you could open accounts in various applications through a single website and manage your data across multiple sites. The web, a central number that you could call and talk to a person who could do anything for you that you could do online. Web macros, a way to record sequence of steps on website that so that you could repeat common actions even across sites and share recipes for how you accomplish online tasks. Internet Button Company, a way to package steps taken on a website and a smart form fill functionality. People could encode button and share button social bookmarking. Max and Damon had a vision that computers could be used to create a virtual personal assistant to which their customer could ask questions because the assistant was designed for subjective questions. The answer required human judgment. Thus, the early artwork experiment tried many variations on this theme, building a series of prototypes for ways customer could interact with the virtual assistant and get their questions answered. All the early prototypes failed to engage the customer. As Max described it, we self-funded the company and released very cheap prototype to test what becomes at work was the sixth prototype. Each prototype was a 2 to 4 week effort. We use human to replicate the back, and as much as possible we invite 100 to 200 friends to try the prototype and measure how many of them came back. The results were unambiguously negative until at work. Because of the short timeline, none of the prototype involved advanced technology. Instead, they were MVPs designed to test more important question: what would be required to get customer to engage with the product and tell their friends about it. Once we choose at work, Ventila says we continue to run with human replicating pieces of the backhand for 9 months. We hired 8 people to manage queries, classify conversation, etc. We actually raised our seed and Series A round before the system was automated. The assumption was that the lines between human and artificial intelligence would cross, and we at least proved that we were building stuff people would respond to. As we refined the product, we would bring in 6 to 12 people weekly to react to mock-up prototypes or simulation that we were working on. It was mix of existing users and people who never saw the product before. We had our engineers join for many of these seasons, but so that they could make modification in real time, but also so we could all experience the pain of a user not knowing what to do. The artwork product they settle on work via instant messaging. IM customer could send artwork a question via IM and artwork would get them an answer that was drawn from the customer social network. The system would seek out the customer friends and friends of friends and pose the questions to them. Once it got a suitable answer, it would report back to the initial customer. Of course, a product like that requires a very important algorithm giving a question about a certain topic. Who is the best person in the customer social network to answer that question? For example, a question about restaurant in San Francisco shouldn't be routed to someone in Seattle. More challenging is still a question about computer programming probably shouldn't be routed to an art student. Throughout their testing process, Max and Damon encounter many difficult technological problems like these. Each time they emphatically refuse to solve them at that early stage. Instead, they use Wizard of Oz testing to fake it. In a Wizard of Oz test, customer believe they are interacting with the actual product, but behind the scene human beings are doing the work, like the concierge MVP. This approach is incredible and efficient. Image a service that allowed customer to ask question of human researcher for free and expect a real-time response. Such a service at scale would lose money, but it is easy to build on a macro scale. At that scale, it allowed Max and Damon to answer these all important questions. If we can solve the tough technical problem behind this artificial intelligence product, will people use it? Will their use lead to the creation of the product that has real value? It was this system that allowed Max and Damon to pivot over and over again, rejecting concept that seems promising, but they would not have been viable. When they were ready to start scaling, they had a ready made roadmap of what to build. The result at work was a car for a report 50 million by Google. The role of a quality and design in an MVP. One of the most vexing aspects of the minimum viable product is the challenge it poses to traditional notion of quality. The best professionals and craft persons alike aspire to build quality products. It is a point of pride in modern production process rely on high quality as a way to boost efficiency. They operate using W. Edward Deming famous dictum that the customer is the most important part of the production process. This means that we must focus our energies exclusively on producing outcomes that the customer perceive as valuable. Allowing sloppy work into our process inevitable leads to excessive variation. Variation process yields products of varying quality in the eye of the customer that at best require rework and at worst leads to a lost customer. Most modern business and engineering philosophies focus on producing high quality experiences for customer as a primary principle. It is the foundation of Six Sigma lean manufacturing, design thinking, extreme programming, and the software craftsmanship movement. These discussion of quality presuppose that the company already know what attribute of the product the customer will perceive as worthwhile. In a startup, this is a risky assumption to make. Often we are not even sure who the customer is. Thus, for a startup, I believe in the following quality principles. If we do not know who the customer is, we do not know what quality is. Even a low quality MVP can act in service of building a great high quality product. Yes, MVPs sometimes are perceived as low quality by customer. Even a low quality MVP can act in a service of building a great high quality product. Yes, MVP sometimes are perceived as low quality by customer. If so, we should use this as an opportunity to learn what attribute customer care about. This is infinitely better than mere speculation or whiteboard strategies because it provides a solid empirical foundation on which to build future product. Sometimes, however, customer react quite differently. Many famous products were released in a low quality state and customer loved them. Imagine if Craig Newmark in the early days of package list had refused to publish his humble email newsletter because it lacked sufficient high design. What if the founders of Groupon had felt two pizzas for the price of one was beneath them? I have had many similar experience in the early days of IMBU. Our avatar were locked in one place, unable to move around the screen. The reason we were building an MVP and had not yet tackled the difficult task of creating the technology that would allow avatar to walk around the virtual environment they inhabit. In the video game industry, the standard is that 3D avatars should move fluidly as they walk, avoid obstacles in their path, and take an intelligent route towards their destination. Famous best-selling games such as Electronic Arts, The Sims work on these principles. We didn't want to ship a low-quality version of this feature, so we opt instead to ship with a stationary avatar. Feedback from the customer was very consistent. They want the ability to move their avatar around the environment. We took this as bad news because it meant we could have to spend considerable amount of time and money on a high quality solution similar to The Sims, but before we committed ourselves to that path, we decided to try another MVP. We use a simple hack which felt almost like cheating. We changed the product so that customer could click where they wanted their avatar to go, and the avatar would teleport there instantly. No walking, no obstacle avoidance. The avatar disappeared and then reappeared an instant later in the new place. We couldn't even afford fancy teleportation, graphics, or sound effects. We felt lame shipping this feature, but it was all we could afford. We can imagine our surprise when we started to get positive customer feedback. We never asked about the movement feature directly. We were too embarrassed, but when asked to name the top things about IMBU, they like best customer consistently list avatar teleportation among the top three. Unbelievable. They often specifically describe it as more advanced than the Sims. This inexpensive compromise outperform many features of the product. We were most proud of feature that had taken much more time and money to produce. Customer don't care how much time something takes to build. They care only if it serves their needs. Our customer preferred the quick teleportation feature because it allowed them to get where they wanted to go as fast as possible. In retrospect, this makes sense. Wouldn't we all like to get wherever we are going in an instant? No lines, no hours, or on a plane or sitting on the tarmac, no connections, no cabs or subway. Beam me up. Scotty, our expensive real world approach was beaten hardly by a cool, fancy world feature that costs much less but that our customer preferred. So, which version of the product is low quality again? MVPs require the courage to put one's assumptions to the test. If customer react the way we expect, we can take that as confirmation that our assumptions are correct. If we release a poorly designed product and customer, even early adopters, cannot figure out how to use it, that will confirm our needs to invest in superior design. But we must always ask, what if they don't care about the design in the same way we do? Thus, the lean startup method is not opposed to building high quality product, but only in service of the goal of winning over customer. We must be willing to set aside our traditional professionalism standard to start the process of validated learning as soon as possible. But once again, this does not mean operating in a sloppy or undisciplined way. This is an important caveat. There is a category of quality problems that have the net effect of slowing down the build major learn feedback loop. The fact make it more difficult to evolve the product. They actually interface with our ability to learn and so are dangerous to tolerate in our production process. We will consider method for figuring out when to make investment in preventing these kind of problem in part 3. As you consider building your own minimum viable product, like this example rule suffice, remove any feature, process, or effort that does not contribute directly to the learning you seek. Speed bumps in building an MVP. Building an MVP is not without risks, both real and imagined. Both can derail a startup efforts unless they are understood ahead of time. The most common speed bumps are legal issues, fear about competition, branding risks, and impact on morale. For a startup, they rely on patent protection. There are special challenges with releasing an early product in some jurisdiction. The window for filing a patent begins when the product is released to the general public, and depending on the way the MVP is structured, releasing it may start this clock. Even if your startup is not in one of those jurisdiction, you may want international patent protection up having and may end up having to abide by these more stringent requirements. In my opinion, issues like this are one of the many ways in which current patent law inhibited innovation and should be remedied as a matter of public policy. In many industries, patents are used primarily for defensive purposes as a deterrent to hold competitors at bay. In such cases, the patent risk of an MVP are minor compared with the learning benefits. However, in industries in which a new scientific breakthrough is at the heart of a company competitive advantage, these risks needs to be balanced more carefully. In all cases, entrepreneurs should seek legally counsel to ensure that they understand the risks fully. Legal risks may be daunting, but you may be surprised to learn that the most common objection I have heard over the years to building an MVP is fear of competitors, especially large established companies stealing a startup ideas. If only it were so easy to have a good idea stolen. Part of the special challenges of being a startup is the near impossibility of having your idea, company, or product be noticed by anyone, let alone a competitor. In fact, I have often given entrepreneurs fearful of this issue the following assignment: take one of your idea, one of your lesser insight, perhaps find the name of the relevant product manager at an established company who has responsibility for that area and try to get the company to steal your idea. Call them up, write them a memo, send them a press release, go ahead and try it. The truth is that most managers in most companies are already overwhelmed with good ideas. Their challenge lies in prioritization and execution, and it is those challenges that give a startup hope of surviving. If a competitor can out execute a startup once the idea is known, the startup is doomed anyway. The reason to build a new team or pursue an idea is that you believe you can accelerate through the build major learn feedback loop faster build major learn feedback loop faster than anyone else can. If that's true, it makes no difference what the competition knows. If it's true, a startup has much bigger problem and secrecy won't fix them. Sooner or later, a successful startup will face competition from fast followers. A head start is really large enough to matter, and time spent in stall mode away from customer is unlikely to provide a hard start. The only way to win is to learn faster than anyone else.